Welcome back to the Joy of Vinyl. I'm Rick Coste. Those who aren't, I would say, new to the channel know I've been collecting records for over 4 decades now. It's crazy. But what have I learned during this time? What do I wish I could tell, say, my younger self? Well, let's find out. Yeah, that's me in 1985 with my dad. And check out the hair. I was going for Robert Plant, but I think I just achieved John Oates. Anyway, funny bad hair aside, I'm proud of the way I took care of my record collection. I've made mistakes. I've made mistakes with storage in the past. I've used some pretty poor equipment back in my 20s that, when I look back, kind of makes me shiver a bit. But the majority of the records I bought as new records back in the 70s and the 80s, as well as the early 90s, easily fall into the near mint condition, or at least the VG++. The ones that don't are the used ones I purchased that saw slightly better days before I adopted them. So if I had a magical way to talk to my younger self about our record collection, I'd first congratulate him on doing some good things out of the gate. Then there are some things that I'd have to chastise him about. Now, what would I tell him to stop doing? Well, one thing would be to stop taping pennies to the top of the cartridge to prevent skips. That kills me that I did that. And this was pre-internet days, and I was young, and I have no idea where I heard to do that, but I did. Scary. But thankfully, I don't think I did that for very long, but still. So what wisdom would I impart besides what not to do? I'll begin with the easy stuff. Handling records. For years, I used to ease the record out by just kind of lightly gripping the outer edge and pulling the record out of the sleeve, being careful not to touch the lead-in groove. And that's fine. It prevented any oils or fingerprints. But there's an easier way. With a little patience, I'd show him this. Next is cleaning records. I used to use this back in the day. That's what we had, and at least I was concerned with keeping them clean. That's a good thing. And it wasn't bad either. Keeping records clean is key, and there are many ways of doing so, from the inexpensive to the expensive. An inexpensive way is the groove washer cleaning system. Not so much different than what I used to use back in the day. While I now use a combination of the Record Doctor 6 vacuum machine and the Spin Clean filled with distilled water for a final bath, going with the Spin Clean is a great start. You don't have to spend a lot to keep your records clean. And here's another tip. Clean new records. You wouldn't think you would have to, and back in the day, I have to admit, I didn't clean new records. But given the fingerprints and the paper dust I see on new records pressed recently, I won't place a new record on the turntable unless it's clean. Do I clean records before every spin? Absolutely not. I clean them well and I handle them right. And if you do that, you shouldn't have to go to that extreme. Do I ever clean them again? Well, yeah, sure, if I feel that they need to be cleaned. So we've covered cleaning and handling. Next is storage, and this is easy. Just store them upright and in a dry place. If it's a cool, dry place, well, great. If not, just make sure you keep them away from radiators and excessive heat. Heat is the enemy. And also, when you do store them upright, try to make sure they're not leaning into one another. A bunch of records, actually, you know this, but they weigh a lot. And you don't want the last of the bunch to be bearing all of the weight of the others. So far, so good, right? Nothing earth-shattering, and a lot of this is common sense. But not everyone, especially today, has been exposed to records, and they may just be getting into them. So I do hope that this helps. Last, equipment. Now, I could go on and on about equipment, but at its most basic, don't buy one of those all-in-one solutions or something that costs less than $100 and, say, looks like a suitcase. You can buy a good system for less than $300. And I'll link to a video I did recently about some recommendations on those lines. And finally, still speaking about equipment, keep your stylus clean and change it every now and then. If you play records every day, especially 2 or 3 a day, then change it once a year. If less than that or not so often, then maybe every 2 to 3 years. A good rule of thumb is to change it after, say, 1,000 hours of playing time. And that's just a rule of thumb. You'll hear different opinions, and it also depends on the stylus too. Also, practice good hygiene, stylus hygiene. Keep your stylus clean. I use a stylus brush, and it's more than adequate. So that's it. It comes down to 5 simple rules, or 5 simple things: handling, cleaning, storage, equipment, and stylus care. There's other things to consider, but I have plenty of videos covering those. Consider this a simple list of what I find the most basic, important thing to keep in mind, especially when collecting records, and your collection will last for years to come. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, and tips as well. Comment below, and if you're not subscribed, just click the button somewhere over here. And as always, thank you for watching. And until next time, please take care of yourself and enjoy your records.